Hello, beautiful Libra, and welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot. If you're here right now, it's not by accident. Something much bigger has drawn you to this message, and in the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly what it is. Let me begin with a question, one that might feel a little too close to home. Have you been holding it all together on the outside, while slowly losing touch with your own heart? Because for the Libra soul, the peacemaker, the harmonizer, the one who always tries to make it work, this may be the exact moment you finally ask yourself, but what about me? This is not just another horoscope. This is a deeply personal message, one that was delivered to me in a dream, by a woman surrounded in soft pink light, with eyes that seemed to know everything. She introduced herself as your grandmother. She took my hand, looked me in the eye, and whispered something I wasn't ready for. Tell them, they no longer need to hold it all together. They only need to hold on to themselves. So if you're watching this, Libra, you've been chosen to receive that message. Not from me, but from the universe. From the love that came before you. From the part of you that's tired of performing peace, and ready to experience truth. In the next chapters of this video, I'll walk you through this dream, piece by piece. You'll understand why things in your life have felt so fragile lately, and why that fragility is not a weakness, but a gateway. We'll dive into your tarot cards for the week of May 28th through May 31st, decode the sacred numbers that keep repeating around you, and reveal the real reason why certain people have pulled away, or been removed entirely, from your life. But before we begin, let me take a sacred pause. Thank you. Thank you for being here. For your likes, your comments, your shares, for subscribing and walking this soul journey with us. Every single time you support Zodiac Whisper Tarot, you're not just helping this channel grow, you're helping build a space where sensitive, intuitive souls like you finally feel seen. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You are the reason this light keeps shining. And trust me, Libra, you'll want to stay until the end of this reading. Because what the universe is revealing right now could change everything. But before we go deeper, let me ask you something. What has the Taurus in your life done recently that stirred your soul and brought you here today? Drop your answer, or a number that keeps appearing in your world, down in the comments. Who knows? That sacred number may just be the key to the message your grandmother whispered in my dream. Let's begin. There are moments in life when the message is no longer in the words we hear, but in the space between them, in the pause, in the breath we hold before deciding whether to live for ourselves, or for the expectations of others. That is where Libra now finds themselves, at a threshold not of decision, but of recognition. And in the dream, the grandmother understood this. She wasn't balancing anything. She was simply present, seated between two glowing scales of light, but her gaze wasn't on the weights. It was on the heart. Astrologically, Libra is ruled by Venus, the planet of harmony, beauty, and connection. But what most people forget is that Venus also governs values. And during this period, especially between May 28th and May 31st, the energy pressing upon Libra isn't asking you to keep peace. It's asking you to define what peace actually means to you. This is not the kind of balance that pleases everyone in the room. It's the deeper alignment that comes from daring to tell the truth, to yourself, first. In numerology, the number 2 carries the energy of partnership, but also of tension between options. It whispers of duality and choice, but more importantly, of intuition, that deep inner voice you often override in order to avoid conflict. Number 6 brings in themes of responsibility and care, not just for others, but for the home you carry within yourself. And 9? 9 is the invitation to release. It's the gentle ending that blesses rather than blames, that forgives rather than justifies. Together, these numbers form a quiet map for Libra to walk right now: feel, care, release. There's a kind of spiritual clarity that comes from letting go of the idea that we must earn our place by being agreeable. This grandmother figure, appearing in radiant serenity, wasn't commanding, she was simply sure. And that, too, is a message. You don't have to raise your voice to claim your truth. You just have to stop silencing it. You were not created to play referee in emotional battles that are not yours. And perhaps the most loving thing you can do for others right now is to stop adjusting yourself to maintain illusions of harmony that don't even serve them. In times like this, I'm reminded of something deeper than astrology, a teaching about how we are called to be salt and light. Salt doesn't lose itself in every dish. It adds flavor. Light doesn't hide under a bushel. It shines. So ask yourself gently, are you blending in where you were meant to bless with your presence? Are you dimming the truth in your heart so others don't have to confront their own discomfort? Emotional honesty is not the enemy of love. It's the foundation of it. And for Libra, who so often reads the room before reading themselves, this is a sacred reversal. You don't owe your calmness to people who never asked how much it costs you. What you owe is something holier: integrity. The kind that says, I will not pretend. I will not shrink. I will not balance what was never mine to carry. As you reflect on the grandmother's message, that you are not here to keep everyone happy, let it settle not as a burden, but as relief. Because it means you are finally allowed to stop editing yourself for other people's comfort. You are allowed to build a life where you don't have to perform to be loved. You are allowed to want peace and truth. And the most beautiful balance you can create is the one where your insides and your outsides are finally aligned. Sometimes, the things we build to protect ourselves become the very things that imprison us. The idea of harmony, for Libra, is one such construction, beautiful, noble, well-intended. But when you spend your days smoothing every wrinkle, softening every edge, and translating your truth into something more acceptable, it's not harmony you're creating. It's performance. And that performance, no matter how graceful, can cost you your deepest connection, the one with your own heart. Picture it like this: a statue, perfectly balanced, symmetrical, admired. But hollow. No breath, no pulse, no warmth behind the smile it holds. That's what the illusion of external harmony can become when it's not rooted in inner truth. And for Libra, who so often seeks peace as a means of love, this can be one of the hardest realizations to face. Because pretending to be okay has likely become second nature by now. You might not even recognize when you're doing it. You nod. You accommodate. You weigh both sides so evenly that you forget there's a third voice that matters just as much: your own. Energetically, this disconnect has a cost. The law of attraction doesn't respond to what you fake. It responds to what you vibrate. So when you silence your feelings to meet expectations, you don't attract love, you attract more expectations. More roles to play. More weight to carry. And slowly, your energy field becomes a mirror of what others want, rather than a reflection of who you truly are. The Justice card, which governs Libra in the tarot, reminds us that real balance is not about equalizing outcomes, it's about acknowledging truth. Justice doesn't wear a mask. She holds a sword, and she cuts through illusion. But in your case, dear Libra, the sword has gone unused for too long. The blindfold isn't around your eyes, it's been wrapped around your feelings. And the longer you avoid your truth, the further you drift from the peace you're working so hard to maintain. The Two of Swords adds to this message with striking clarity. It shows a person caught between choices, arms crossed, swords drawn, but their heart is guarded. The moon glows in the background, symbolizing intuition left unacknowledged. It's not that you don't know what you feel. It's that you've been taught to prioritize diplomacy over honesty, to smooth over tension instead of confronting what created it. And yet, there is hope. There is temperance, a gentle reminder that real harmony begins within. Temperance doesn't demand perfection or immediate clarity. It invites a slow blending, a sacred recalibration. It asks you to pour from one cup to another until the liquid finds its true balance, and that cup includes you. From a spiritual perspective grounded in divine wisdom, there's a gentle reminder here: you were never asked to be everything to everyone. You were only asked to be faithful to who you are. There's a kind of quiet courage in saying, "This is what I want. This is what I need." Not to dismiss others, but to honor yourself, and in doing so, model a kind of honesty that gives others permission to do the same. So here's something practical and powerful you can do right now. Take a moment to write down 3 things you do regularly to keep others comfortable. Things you do out of habit, obligation, or fear. Then, write down 3 things you deeply want but rarely voice. Don't worry about whether they seem selfish or unrealistic. This isn't about making demands. It's about giving your inner voice a seat at the table. Because the real you, the one beneath the polished exterior, has been waiting to be heard. And trust me, when you begin to choose truth over performance, not only do you feel lighter, but life begins to meet you in more authentic, aligned, and beautifully unexpected ways. It's strange how often we equate fairness with self-denial, especially for Libra, who has been taught that giving is noble, and receiving too much might somehow tilt the balance. There's a common belief, often unspoken but deeply felt, that if you accept abundance, someone else must go without. That if you thrive, someone else might struggle. But the truth is, that kind of thinking isn't balance, it's limitation. And for Libra, whose soul came here to master both beauty and justice, this mindset has quietly drained more energy than any material struggle ever could. In the grandmother's message, she made something very clear: abundance doesn't visit those who constantly try to be fair to the world at the cost of being fair to themselves. It visits those who are willing to declare their value without apology. Because in the energy of the universe, there is no shortage. There is no cosmic scale where your success means someone else's failure. There is only expansion. And expansion begins with permission. Too often, Libra waits for validation, for balance, for everyone else to be comfortable first. But prosperity doesn't respond to waiting. It responds to clarity. It shows up where there is decisiveness, not hesitation. And sometimes, the first step toward prosperity is a single, sacred no to underpricing yourself. No to overextending for relationships that don't nourish you. No to saying yes out of guilt. Because when you say no to what depletes you, you open the door for what truly sustains you to walk in. This is where the Six of Pentacles enters, a reminder that the art of giving must always include the art of receiving. Think of a balanced scale again. If you keep giving without receiving, the scale collapses. If you only receive and never give, it tilts into entitlement. But when you give from overflow, when you say yes only when you mean it, and no when your soul whispers it's time, you step into graceful reciprocity. The kind of balance that doesn't sacrifice you. And then comes the Queen of Pentacles, who embodies self-worth without needing to prove it. She doesn't chase wealth, but she attracts it because she nurtures her resources and protects her boundaries. She reminds you that abundance doesn't require exhaustion. It requires alignment. And that the most powerful form of wealth begins not in your bank account, but in how you treat yourself when no one is watching. Finally, the World card reminds us that the circle only completes itself when we stand in our fullness. Not when we give away too much. Not when we shrink to avoid taking up space. But when we allow ourselves to receive, to rest, to rebuild, not as an exception, but as a new standard. Abundance is not a reward for overfunctioning. It is the natural result of wholeness. During this window from May 28th to 31st, the energies are shifting in favor of Libra, declaring new terms with the universe. You're being asked to practice something different, not generosity for approval, but prosperity through truth. You might start with something as simple and powerful as mirror work. Look at yourself, really look, and say aloud, I do not need permission to be wealthy. Let that affirmation echo in your body. Let it land without resistance. You were never meant to beg the universe. You were meant to co-create with it. And while you're here, don't forget the colors that speak to Libra's energy during this transit. Soft olive green for harmony and decisions, blush pink with a metallic sheen to magnetize compassion with confidence, and luminous pearl white to reset your aura to its original, unshakable beauty. These aren't just aesthetic choices, they're energetic invitations. Wear them. Surround yourself with them. Let your external space reflect the truth you're choosing to live internally. Because once you understand that saying no doesn't close doors, but opens better ones, money, peace, and purpose begin to find you. Not because you're chasing them, but because you've finally stopped running from yourself. Not every relationship that once brought light is meant to stay forever. Sometimes the imbalance isn't in how much the other person gives, it's in how much you keep giving just to hold things together. And for Libra, whose heart beats in rhythm with the need for fairness, this can be an especially painful truth to face. The imbalance starts subtly. You accommodate. You listen. You try to understand, explain, fix, and forgive before the other person has even asked. But over time, you realize something deeper. You've been fighting to keep a connection alive that no longer fights for you. It's easy to mistake this dynamic for loyalty or compassion, but what it really becomes is energetic overfunctioning. You carry not only your share of the relationship, but theirs too. Their pain, their insecurities, their silence. All in the name of peace. And in doing so, you lose your center, not because they asked you to, but because you forgot that it's not your job to emotionally balance another human being. You are responsible for your light, not for being the generator of someone else's. The grandmother's message gently echoed this truth. Love doesn't mean absorbing the emotional weight of another soul. Love means seeing clearly where your energy ends and theirs begins. It means choosing boundaries, not as walls, but as sacred definitions, the space where your identity still matters. There's a wisdom in letting go, especially when the relationship becomes a loop of you adjusting and them receiving without reflection. You were not created to bend endlessly. You were created to bloom. This is where the Eight of Cups holds significance. It represents walking away, not in anger, not in resentment, but in deep respect for your own emotional well-being. This kind of departure is quiet, even mournful. But it's also liberating. It doesn't ask for a grand explanation or confrontation. It simply says, I choose to preserve the peace within me. Because no matter how long you've walked with someone, if the journey has become a one-sided path, you're allowed to change directions. The Hermit card then arrives not as a symbol of loneliness, but of sacred solitude. It reminds us that pulling away isn't punishment, it's protection. When you step back, you don't disappear. You reconnect with the voice that's been whispering under the noise of people-pleasing and over-caring. This phase invites a deeper knowing, the kind that only comes when your energy is no longer tethered to another's emotional chaos. And in that space, healing begins. Four of Swords seals this message with clarity. Rest. Retreat. Restore. You don't need to prove your strength by staying. You prove your growth by knowing when it's time to pause and breathe. Especially on May 30th and 31st, the cosmic energy supports release, not through harsh severing, but through compassionate closure. This is a powerful time to write a letter to that person, one you may never send. Pour out the weight, the grief, the hope, the truth. Then light a white candle and let the letter go. You don't need their permission to find peace. And while you move through this, remember the kind of love God encourages, not self-sacrifice to the point of emotional depletion, but love that honors boundaries, truth, and clarity. You are not meant to be someone's emotional crutch. You are meant to stand tall, steady, and aligned with the light inside you. The right people will meet you there, not needing you to hold them up, but choosing to walk beside you, in balance, in honesty, and in love that uplifts without asking you to disappear. There's a quiet but powerful shift that happens when you stop asking, is this fair to everyone else? And start asking, is this kind to me? For Libra, this shift doesn't come easily. Your soul is wired to seek peace, to balance perspectives, to soften sharp edges so others can breathe easier. But what if your very presence becomes more healing not when you keep the peace, but when you live in truth? What if the world doesn't actually need you to balance everything? It just needs you to stop forgetting yourself in the process. At this stage of your journey, the message becomes clear. Real balance isn't about evenly distributing your energy to everyone around you. It's about honoring the rhythm inside your own heart. The grandmother in the dream said it simply, yet with such conviction, no one truly needs you to balance everything. They need to see you live. Not survive. Not perform. But live, honestly, fully, without apology. That might feel strange at first. maybe even selfish. Especially if you were raised to believe that selflessness is always noble, and self-prioritization is wrong. But let's reframe that. True self-care isn't about indulgence. It's about stewardship of your time, your body, your purpose. Even in spiritual wisdom, we are not called to burn ourselves out to light others' paths. We are called to love others as we love ourselves. And that includes rest, boundaries, listening to our own needs before they become crisis level. Astrologically, this timing is not accidental. Venus, your ruling planet, is now forming a harmonious sextile to Saturn, a transit that brings the chance to rewrite the rules around love, value, and commitment. It's the perfect moment to redefine how you show up for yourself and others. Not through obligation, but through conscious presence. This energy asks you to assess your boundaries not as limits, but as lines of clarity. Where do you end and others begin? And if you've been crossing that line to keep things balanced, now is the time to gently, but firmly, return to center. Numerology supports this, too. The number 11, a master number, is shining its light on you now. 11 is the number of spiritual insight and inner awakening. It often comes into play when the soul is being called to step up, to stop hiding behind compromise, and to speak from an aligned place. This doesn't mean becoming loud or demanding. It means becoming clear. And in clarity, others will finally see who you are, not just who you've tried to be for them. If this resonates, there's something simple you can do. Set aside 11 quiet minutes each morning. No pressure. No tasks. Just you and your breath. Sit with your hand over your heart and ask, what do I need today, that I'm afraid to admit? And then listen. Don't fix. Don't filter. Just listen. Over time, this small practice becomes a compass, guiding you back to yourself without guilt, without hesitation. The beauty of Libra is in the elegance you bring to the spaces you enter, but that elegance shines brightest when you are at peace with yourself, not when you are at war with your own needs. Remember, your worth isn't measured by how well you support others. It's felt most powerfully when you allow yourself to be supported too. And the world doesn't need another martyr. It needs you, whole, rested, and rooted in who you truly are. If you're still here, still listening, still allowing this message to sink into the quiet corners of your soul, then I know you're not just curious about your horoscope. You're ready to live differently. And Libra, I know how tired you are of keeping the peace outside while your own heart trembles in silence. You've done it gracefully. For so long, you've carried the weight of harmony as if it were your life's purpose. But maybe the real calling was never about keeping others comfortable. Maybe it's always been about returning to the one place you abandoned in the process, yourself. You see, balance isn't out there. It's not in perfect schedules, or in agreeing to avoid conflict, or in keeping relationships afloat that ask you to disappear piece by piece. True balance is radical honesty. It's the quiet strength of telling yourself the truth, even when that truth might disappoint someone else. So let me ask you gently, but clearly, what is the one thing you want, right now, that you're afraid to admit? Can you write it down? Can you let yourself want it without apologizing? Because that, my dear Libra, is where real alignment begins. Balance is not about being unshakable. It's about learning how to be steady within, even when everything outside of you wobbles. It's trusting that you're allowed to center yourself without guilt. It's understanding that your worth isn't found in your usefulness to others, but in your willingness to stay faithful to who you are, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. So here's a small but powerful action. If anything in this video spoke to your heart, I invite you to write in the comments right now, "I am Libra, and I'm choosing me." Let it be your declaration. Let it be the moment you stop dimming your truth to keep the peace. You are not here to carry everyone's emotional weight. You are not here to negotiate your soul. You are here to move with beauty, with grace, and with courage, not as someone who balances the world, but as someone who remembers that the world only stays upright when you are standing tall within it. And if you felt seen today, if something opened inside you that hasn't opened in a while, please give this video a like. Not just for me, but for you. Let it be a signal to your heart that you're ready to begin again, not in someone else's story, but in your own. Subscribe if you haven't already, because the next message from the stars may be exactly what your soul has been waiting for. Thank you, deeply, truly, for being here with me, with us, in this sacred space. Your energy, your presence, your quiet bravery is what makes this channel more than just a reading. It's a place of remembering. A place where Libra learns to listen not to the noise, not to the pressure, not to the pull of pleasing, but to that one steady voice that's been waiting all along. And remember this, you were never born to balance the world for others. You were born to dance across your own tightrope, effortlessly, joyfully, like light meeting air. You don't owe the world silence. You owe yourself the song you've been holding back. Let it out. Let it move. And most of all, let it begin.